A while back, a couple different people posted an article entitled 6 Reasons Why We Don't Need Song Leaders in Worship. I'll put a link to the article in the info down below. It seems like whenever I read an article like that I feel irritated. And I think that part of the reason for that is that sort of argument generally comes from someone who has seen some abuses. And because of that, he wants to get rid of the whole idea. So give me a couple of moments to respond to each of those 6 different reasons, all right? The first one, it leads people toward music consumption rather than participation. This is the proverbial throw the baby out with the bathwater statement. Of course, that's a possibility that it could lead to consumption and not participation, but it's not inherent in song leaders. I have been in churches where there is no song leader and the participation was dismal. On the other hand, I've been in the midst of a congregation with a gifted song leader where nearly every person in attendance participated fully and with passion. Having a song leader does not negate participation. Second one, amplification suppresses congregational singing. And just like the first one, there can be some dimension of truth in this statement, but I would suggest that it is over-amplification that suppresses congregational singing. Amplification simply allows for better hearing of what is being said and sung and for the music to be heard. Later in this article, he mentions his bent toward the pipe organ as the preferred instrument. Face it, an acoustic guitar or an unamplified bass or keyboard can't match the volume of a pipe organ without amplification. They just can't. Amplification is simply a tool to allow the instrument to be heard. So in that sense, proper amplification actually encourages congregational singing. Third one, the organ is a better leader. The writer says that many people are going to say that's just his own opinion. Yep, he's right, it is. He adds this. The instrument itself is unequaled in its ability to enable good congregational singing. The organ can sustain pitches without decay, leading through the phrases, drawing the song out of the congregation. So exactly how does sustaining pitch without decay draw the song out of the congregation? That idea makes for a nice sounding soundbite argument, but it has no basis in actual facts. Again, I've been in services where the pipe organ is used where there is little participation. The instrument does not automatically increase participation. In fact, I would suggest it has more to do with the person playing the instrument or instruments than the specific instrument itself. He also adds another statement. An organ that is well voiced and sized for the room will emphasize the lower and upper partials in the tone while leaving room in the middle for the human voices to fit in. I would say that a trained, well-rehearsed contemporary band can do that just as well. I think maybe even better because there is more variety in the potential sounds. No, the organ is not somehow the superior musical instrument. Sorry. Number 4, singers with microphones tend to talk. And that's a bad idea because... All right, I'll admit that some worship leaders have a tendency to mess up on occasion. Sometimes worship leaders say things that probably they shouldn't. But let's be honest, so do pastors. Do we then, based on this argument, throw out all pastors too? Truthfully, I can't even begin to count the number of times in a service where a song leader has shared a section of scripture or said something that was exactly what I and probably a bunch of others there needed to hear before launching into a song. It made the song more meaningful, and because of that, it encouraged participation. And somehow this author thinks that's a bad idea. Personally, I think it's a really good idea. Fifth one, The song leader often becomes a showcase for ego and personality. I'm not quite sure how the writer of this article determined often in that sentence, that it often becomes a showcase. Truthfully, if you replace the word often with can, I would totally agree. But again, that same thing can happen with pastors. I've seen it too many times. So based on this argument, think about it, we would need to throw out the office of pastor because it could lead some to becoming prideful. But the fact is that as I have traveled and met with and observed literally hundreds of worship leaders all over the country, the vast majority of them are humble people who simply want to serve God. Can the song leader role potentially become a showcase for ego and personality? Of course. Does that happen often, as this writer says? Not in my experience. But think about it, even if it did, that's not an argument for doing away with the role. That would only mean that better discipleship is necessary. Last one, number 6. The traditional music of the church practically sings itself. What does that statement even mean? This author has spent paragraph after paragraph talking about the importance of congregational singing, and now he wants the songs to sing themselves? All right, I know I'm being a little bit bombastic here, but honestly, what a silly statement. I recognize that the writer, that he prefers an older style of music. That is not at all unusual. The majority of people have a preference toward musical styles that either they grew up with or that were meaningful for them in their early days in their walk with the Lord. But that doesn't somehow make that music style better than others. Truth be told, you would be hard-pressed to find very many millennials who would suggest that older music is more singable than modern music. It's simply a matter of preference. All right, the author ends with this statement. We need to teach our congregations to sing, not just have someone with a mic singing at them. I completely agree. I just happen to think that someone with a mic encouraging participation can do that really, really well.
Brought to you by myworshipleadingcoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.